All right, good everyone. This is Rangadad. Not financial advice. So I'm looking at the market, and again, sorry I haven't been able to do them every day lately. Just if you want to read my thoughts, head to the Discord linked in the description. It's also a pretty interesting Discord because they track a lot of trading bots and stuff and the performance of that. So anyway, I'm going to try and whip through this. Got a bit of work to do today, so I thought it's a pretty good time to jump on. So this hasn't updated for today yet. I think it normally takes a little bit after the close. The market should be closed, but anyway, it looks probably smart money's still going to be taking a bit of profit on the way up here. It's still not all the way down yet to the 0.3 number, so this is looking like a short squeeze, and I'll give you more of an idea why in a second. But go through this. Interestingly, the average mining cost is quite a bit lower than where prices are. Not really a data point I'm going to use at all. Logged into these. Sorry. 20th largest on the monthly. So a couple of trades towards the top here. Probably take profits, you'd think. There was a good one there yesterday. I did see that. And yeah, this is kind of, I think the best way to make sense of this for me, I'm not going to worry about the other volume stuff. There's a lot of just big dark pool trades going on at the tops. One of the charts here, so, fuck, I haven't looked at this either. Sorry. I don't use that chart anymore. Oops. Yeah, aggregated spot. The spot volume CVD kind of supported this second run up. There wasn't a lot of support for this first one. This was done on very low volume. Made me think that it was going to be a bit of a false move actually, but yeah, the market opened in the US and they just pushed it higher. And futures seem to be the driver of this. Like futures was supporting this run, supported this second run. People are taking profit though. You can see that in the charts. But here, this is interesting. It to me probably looking like a bit of a bull flag here on the shorter time frames. But one thing to keep an eye on is top traders are now pretty heavily short. They did have a little run up as we're coming down here. They've been taking profit the whole way up here. They did kind of have their asses hanging out a little bit because they were sort of back here. They sort of started to, what was it? Yeah, they kind of started going a little bit long here, but anyway, yeah, this one's an interesting read because I've been trying to go back and back test a little bit, and when you see quick drops, you see these guys load up. But as you can see here, if you're starting to do longs, even if you're longing at this point here, there's not really that much of a pump to actually allow you to take profit there. So guys that got in here, I think they're the ones that are starting to drop off as this comes up and drop off pretty quickly. So you end up in this flat zone where the top traders are sort of, they're overall net short through there. But as you get that drop starting, you start to buy in a little bit. The fact that they've taken profits so hard on the way up here, and well, taken profit slash turned into a short sell, suggests that maybe they're going to push this down. But again, what it looks like is potentially we're short squeezing at the moment. And a good way to see that is if we zoom out a couple of days. This liquidity in here, once we sort of cleared this, it looked pretty juicy. I didn't know whether it was enough. I think if I go to the 1 or the 3 month, yeah, you can see there, it was looking pretty good. Even the way down here, like literally a couple of days ago, I was thinking we'd actually go straight up into that after this initial run up. So this here just looks like a bit of a long liquidity grab. And now we're starting to work our way through. So this liquidity up into 112, and there is some further up into 115 area. We zoom out even more. Once you start breaking these levels, there will be a lot of sellers coming in here. So this could drag the price up further, and you're going to get breakout like momentum guys coming in. So if we do sort of not reject instantly from this liquidity at about 111, then this could be the push up to the all-time highs and that sort of 115 and potentially even 120. There's a lot of confidence around 120. At that point, I would expect us to be putting in a bit of a top. Caveat to all this is I'm not even sure that's going to happen right now. And let's get into the charts to show you why. This is probably the best case for another couple of days, at least, of bull run. Obviously, we've got this trend line here at going to be at about 115. Pretty freaking close to that, actually. The issue I have, and look, we got increasing BBWP from a low level. We're in the bullish control zone. We've just ticked up today, assuming it closes somewhere around here. Momentum's back above the signal line. We did get a buy signal on the Sailor shift ratio. Look, that's a lot of bullish indication there. And I have a quick look at total versus stable coins. And this shows a little bit of a different picture. One, that bounce off the friggin' bull market support line still is a critical trend line, hey. I thought we might actually come down below that, but the thing I wanted to point out here is this channel on the total versus stables, we haven't actually tagged the top of this channel yet. When we were getting close to the top of the channel on Bitcoin, we were struggling to break through the 200 EMA. And when we pulled back, I thought it had enough momentum to actually come back and recover a bit more of this vector candle. But Bitcoin does Bitcoin things, and turns out that freaking bull market support line is really strong. So, and this channel here, we've had two very strong rejections off the top of this channel. That's a pretty strong trend line. It's actually parallel with the topping trend line here, which is interesting but not really tradable. What I would think is if this breaks out of here, that we do get rejection somewhere around here, and I suspect we'll be hitting 115-ish on Bitcoin if we're hitting this line. So in general, this is, again, BBWP is breaking up from a very low baseline. That is pretty bullish, to be honest. It seems more likely to break the top of this range than it does to get rejected from it. But just depends how quickly we take that liquidity and whether we actually continue to the upside once we take it. Quick look at CME as well. So we've actually broken above on CME. This was a bit of a fake out on CME really on the daily. But again, it's trending very much to the upside. I don't know why that Sailor shift ratio is not working because it just looks at two tickers. It doesn't even look at the tickers that I've got activated. That's weird. Trading view doing trading view things. Good move on ETH as well. ETH could run. I'd still like to see ETH really recover this vector candle here as a minimum in this run. These you could claim are recovered. So don't really have to go back there. But right now, man, this looks like if we break out of this range, let's just do, won't do it to the full top. I'll just do it to here and ignore those fake outs. So if we just say, okay, continuation from here, you're looking at this trend line here. So be looking at, oops, I'd be looking at somewhere around the 3200, and 3200 would see a recovery of this vector. You might even just get just shy of it. Would get into this volume node, 3250. But man, I'd be looking to take some profits there if we get continuation through this level. This has been a critical level though, really, that 2760 to 2800. Very critical level to break for ETH. So the other one, and this is kind of the reason why I think we need to be a little bit careful here, is this is just a momentum indicator on the BTC USD longs. So this is BTC USD longs. Obviously the guy's fully reset. It took a lot of profits up in here, all the way up really. And typically once the momentum gets into this top area, these guys are looking to, they're going to be looking to keep buying in. What normally has to happen for that to happen is price comes back down. Interestingly, at a very similar point last time it did it, was back in this big range. And well, it's the start of that big bull flag, 6 months bull flag. And as we crossed there, that was actually a local top. Now it looks pretty similar to this one here too. So we literally could turn around from here in the next day, and you'd probably expect 2-3 days of pullback, and potentially fairly significant pullbacks. You're getting a lot of FOMOing in at the moment. I guess the caveat to all that is it doesn't, I guess not 100%. Generally, when you're coming off very low levels, though, it's a pretty good indication. So when you're coming off really low reset levels of the BTC USD longs, it can signal that you got a little bit more downside to come yet. Even like you can get pumps, but generally we're looking at sort of sideways and down. Okay, that's been the case pretty well since the major lows, but it's not necessarily as big and long like some of these. So I guess it's just worth noting. what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, again, coming off very low lows here, and to be, it can be pretty choppy. But sort of since then, it's been fairly consistent in that these guys are pretty much reset. Once they start to reset, you'd expect sideways and down. That's all. And that is kind of why I think it could be short squeezing at the moment. When you combine the liquidity situation with some FOMO, you've got MicroStrategy still buying. You've actually heard a lot of news about a lot of different companies doing the MicroStrategy thing and buying BTC treasuries. Got the Solana ETF just had some pretty good trading on it overnight. There is quite a lot of bullish sentiment in crypto, and sometimes that's hard to ignore, and it can lead to these blow off top FOMO style runs up. So it's one thing I'm keeping in the back of my mind that we could still get that blow off top. It's just how high does it go? Is I'd be looking at this level here for a start on ETH, and then this level here. Once we hit that, I'd be very surprised if we don't start getting a pullback. I'm going to quickly look. So we are making new all-time highs on equal weight now for NASDAQ. So it is still running. Hard to stop a freight train. This could still keep going. BBWP is still expanding. Just doesn't, like, there's not a lot of volume in it. That's kind of one of the issues for me. Interestingly, we made new high on the equal weight, but not on the regular Qs today. A little bit of a divergence there, which I would actually think is a bullish divergence, to be honest. Still momentum's to the upside. It's still in the bullish control zone. Hard to ignore. Let's just get this off. Again, not huge volume. And you wouldn't expect too much volume this week with the short week, but the economic data that's coming out is an interesting one. It is coming out tomorrow as well, the unemployment rate and services. If these two are not what the market wants, you could see a pretty big drop, but actually send this out. I was trying to break above that trend line too. Trying, hit it, a little bit of a pullback, trying again. That's pretty solid. I have seen some interesting targets around 6,300 on ES. I think they're pretty reasonable targets, considering we're so close to that right now. It would not surprise me at all. Advanced decline line is still going mental. This is one that's like the advanced decline line is suggesting that we've got a little bit to run yet. Equal weight, still not making new all-time highs. But again, momentum's still to the upside, so hard to short the market yet. Especially after a big volume day yesterday on equal weight. All right, IWM playing a bit of catch up still. Interesting taking that candle. There is, I'm sort of leaning more towards what I said the other day, I think. At least said it in Discord, but I can't remember if I said it on the video. I do expect we get a pullback at some stage in the next week or two, right? Probably 4 to 10% pullback on S&P 500, which will see a lot of people panic because there's so much economic data that is just painting a really negative picture. You'll probably see a lot of panic. It'll come down pretty quick, but I think it'll find a bottom pretty quick as well because there's still, as long as there's something that we still haven't broken anything major, I think you will actually see a higher low put in, and I think you'll see more all-time highs going into the end of the year. Potentially, IWM could see this vector candle recovery to happen. So the next 6 months is probably going to end up higher than where we're at now, in my opinion, possibly. But then I think around Christmas time, January, that's when you're gonna start to see some fireworks. Potentially. So XLI is making new all-time highs as well. And hard to argue against that continuing. XLY, XLP, so consumer discretionary versus consumer staples, hasn't really broken out. And that's kind of, I guess, a potential sign that we are short squeezing at the moment. And a short squeeze and a pullback doesn't necessarily mean we're going to new massive sell-offs and lows and stuff yet. Did make a slight break of this structure on the equal weight XLY XLP, but in general XLY going up versus XLP is generally bullish for markets. No signs of that really slowing down yet. As we talked about before, we have actually come down and taken these last vector candles on the XLP versus SPY. This one here, like, I do think once we actually break and change this trend, it's going to be a decent move. And I guess that would concern me a bit, that the next move may actually find something that breaks. But there's plenty of areas that this should reject at as well. So we could just, rather than in history where we've sort of broken these key downward trend lines, it's pulled back and then just gone. Nah, you don't necessarily have to do that now. Could be pretty choppy and sideways. No major break until it actually breaks. What we don't really want to see is this sort of thing. We're just making massive higher lows above the 200 EMA. I think would be a sign that we're going a lot lower on S&P 500. At the moment, we don't have that yet. We could be doing something similar to this sort of sideways consolidation that we had in the lead up to 2008. Yeah. But yeah, we are at sort of all-time lows as well, so it's anyone's guess as to what really happens. It's 2001 there. Anyway, yeah, I think some sort of pullback is likely. May get a bit of a sugar rush if we do get a rate cut. We'll just keep driving that FOMO and that sentiment that everything's bullish, but how long that lasts, I'm giving it till potentially the end of the year if it does do that. Yeah, equal weight XLP versus SPY. Still got a little bit to come down if it wants to. Interestingly though, it is actually going up, so there is a bit of a move into staples happening at the moment, actually, which could be an early sign that we're starting to near a top. Staples is making a little bit of a move, coming off low BBWP as well, so that's potentially going to have continuation. Discretionary though is making a similar move, coming into an interesting level here with the previous trend line and a bit of market structure. At the moment, I think Wall Street's doing a fair bit of rotation at the moment, and I think that's why we're getting sort of some mixed signals. Regional banking, that's playing catch up, and that's pretty surprising to be honest. Back a little bit in after hours. Yeah, hit a bit of market structure there. Probably comes up a little bit more still. XLF, new highs on XLF. With daily closure highs. So when financials are doing this, it kind of supports the move still. It's mental, but it's happening. And a little bit of a break of this structure on ITB. So housing sector is showing a bit of strength here on the market. So that's a hard one to ignore as well. There's coming into a level where it could reject, and looks like we're potentially forming a bit of a channel here. Something like that. Probably not 100% accurate, but I'd be looking at. That's not a bad little range play there. Anyway, you get the idea. I'd be potentially looking for the market to reverse once we get up into that area. Maybe a little bit lower. Semis covered the vector, definitely. Is it going to break this high? Maybe. We get rejection from that level. Probably going to look pretty nasty, I would think, potentially back into this range here. But at the moment, there's signs we'll probably squeeze that level. This is another reason I think we're squeezing at the moment. There's so many shorts up in this area. There would have been a lot of short liquidation levels just above this. Even just above here, as soon as we broke this level, took out all the short liquidation levels, and we're just squeezing them at the moment. Options too, we are in positive gamma for a lot of the options markets. So they're having to buy to cover, and that's just squeezing the whole system. DJR gold still not looking fantastic with a rejection off that level. This is probably a bit more towards the bear side for me. Again, a potential signal that we're getting close to the top, but funny enough, DJT is moving, looking to potentially recover this vector candle here up into the 16,450 sort of level, up into that previous resistance. Again, another couple of days up wouldn't hurt. We are pretty overextended though, so it might not go straight to those levels. It could pull back a little bit and then move further next week. The VIX is pretty low. Nothing to really report there. There was a big dark pool transaction on the VIX down here, so someone's buying in, probably just protection. The skew's an interesting one. So the skew has kept coming down. Despite the market going up, the skew is coming down, and that's not normally how things work. So that's a pretty major divergence there for me too. And we've had a bit of a move up on the 1-day VIX. That is a potential signal that we could get a day or so of pullback. So if this keeps going up and the market actually keeps going up with it, then I'd be suggesting we're getting pretty close to a top. International markets haven't really made a new all-time high in the DAX yet, but it did go quite mental previously. We put in a lower high on the DAX. That would be pretty nasty looking. Hang Seng, again, not really making all-time highs again. I'm looking right for a pullback there, but UK 100, again, looking right for a pullback, but it's actually got some upward momentum at the moment. Decreasing BBWP there, so yeah. I don't know whether we'll get that. We might get up into that area before the end of the year, up into the 97, 9600 area. But Japanese market, again, not breaking out of this freaking range. If the Japanese market broke out of this range, then I would actually suggest that globally the markets are going to be looking pretty good. Yeah, at the moment you kind of expect this to come back down into the bottom of the range again. LT, yeah, it looks like we've probably finally found a base on TLT, and everyone's talking interest rate cuts and stuff, so you would expect TLT to come up. Yeah, I think the market is expecting some interest rate cuts. I think that's why bonds are sort of hitting all-time highs as well. Interesting pullback in bonds though, with the market still kind of trudging up a bit. That's a pretty decent gap down on it. If we sort of reject from this level again, which was the previous high level, then you kind of got to be looking at, pretty decent pullback, which would suggest the market's going to pull back as well. The reason being is this would just be a fake out on it. So you got to watch for those sort of fake outs when you're breaking previous strong levels. But it did find support around this level here too. So, kind of in potential consolidation area at the moment. LQDIF is suggesting potential further market upside. Coming into this level here though, probably expect a bit of at least sideways, if not a little pullback. We break straight through that. There is I'll probably move it into there because there is a vector candle in here. Yeah, I mean the volume wasn't huge on this last candle, but we had pulled back in after hours. Somewhere around here, if we start to pull back on IF, LQDIF, then the market will probably follow. But for the time being, that is does have a little bit more potential upside. What are we going to look at? I'm going to look at this one because we did have another monthly close. A new all-time highs on the inflation adjusted by month. You guys can see it. Yeah, it's looking fairly positive, looking a lot like this at the moment, which again, you could potentially see a pullback on the monthly. And then we go again. That is certainly something that could happen. Back, have a look around 99,000. Yeah, we were getting pretty sharp pullbacks and runs up towards the end of that as well in 98, even 99. So, yeah, could that be our 98? Could this be our 99? We run up for a little bit longer, sideways, and then pull back. We're in the third year of a bull run as well on the normal stock market, I think. Typically, the third year of a bull is pretty sideways. So, you know, picking a top is pretty tricky, but, you know, it seems like we're getting close-ish. I'm just going to keep pushing it out the more I see this market being stupid. Copper's kind of supporting the market to continue as well. Again, it's getting pretty close to these highs. Vector candle recovery. We could actually push for another couple of days and get up into this wick. Would expect rejection off that sort of level, just given how extended the market is. Gold is finding a bit of support here, and that tells me that, you know, the market is potentially going through a short squeeze as well. So it's the market going up as gold's going up like this. Typically is sort of the final throes of a run up. Certainly something to keep in mind anyway. Freaking volume up here has been massive through this level. Big volume support node there. Not as big as this one, but, you know, pretty big. Silver versus gold. Silver could be full flagging here against gold. Keep an eye out on silver. We've definitely had a bit of a bull flag happening here. Bit of consolidation, momentum's back to the upside, and BBWP is coming off the low. Keep that in mind as well. Oil, decent upside swing. If oil starts to spike as well, then and gold's going at the same time, that's a sign that we'll probably have a pullback in the markets. And this area through here was more of a sideways sort of consolidation, little pullback on the markets. But I think a decent run up would see us just have that 4 to 10% sort of pullback. Dixie, maybe find some support soon. Looks like it's trying. Not a bad level for Dixie to find support. We've actually broken above the 200 EMA on global liquidity too. Coming down a little bit at the moment, but that's of interest to me. If we actually roll over here and start to come down, again, that coming back down, retesting this trend line, even this 50 EMA, is all good for a pullback on the markets themselves. Start breaking this sort of flag here, then I'll be looking for further downside. Mag 7, obviously in a pretty highly traded zone here. Not looking super healthy, but I'm not expecting super things out of this. I think if anything's going to run, it's going to be the small caps, and Arc K looks like it's actually retested the top of this channel and looks like it wants to move away. So could actually get a bit of breadth in the market. through this run, so a lot of the smaller stocks, the Russell rather than the S&P 500. So we could, that rotation that we're seeing could sort of push a few of those alternate sectors up a bit higher. Apple's not really broken through any key levels yet. If we do break and confirm above this level, then Apple is expected to come up into this vector candle at least and close some gaps. There's some pretty big gaps above. So how far away is earnings on Apple? When's that? End of the month. Yeah, it's going to be probably a run up into earnings, to be honest. Well, Microsoft's just went mental. We could end up with a rotation across an 8-7 as well. So Tesla potentially pull back a little bit. Nvidia potentially keep going. That's a pretty decent retest of that trend line above, and a retest of the high breakout as well. If we confirm above this level here, then I'd expect Nvidia to probably get up to potentially 180 or higher. But yeah, Google's got a gap to fill. Microsoft's gone mental already. I'd probably expect a bit of a pullback on Microsoft. Apple's got a gap to fill above, so it could potentially go up. 3M's maybe going to break out of that range. Amazon, it's got a gap here, but yeah, could keep going. So the percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average. Still in high sort of territory. And if this moves up and we start to get into the 85s, then it's a pretty good level for the market to have a rest and we get a bit of a pullback. Airbnb is flat. MD got a fair bit of catch up to do. This vector candle here is sticking out like a sore thumb. So potential further upside on AMD. AVGO is new all-time highs. Bounce off this previous high here too, so similar in Nvidia could run further, both AMD and AVGO. SMCI is a long way down compared to the others, so it's got room to move, but it is being rejected by this previous rejection level, so I can see that confirms above. Kind of like ASML there though, that's pulled back and retested that breakout level, previous structure. Put that in there. Pretty solid support level. And yeah, TSM, new all-time highs as well. So once we get into this sort of territory, it all depends on the FOMO, and look, there is probably some hedge fund managers that are piling in now to try and not lose out on this move. At least say they were involved. Wow, Ford. Holy shit. Ford is rejecting at the moment, just a little bit off this previous candle. That gap, if Ford closes that gap, that's a 20-some% move. You'd have to expect some. If it does it before earnings, then I'd be expecting a fair bit of pullback. So this end of July earnings, I think potentially that could actually be the point where we start to see the 4 to 10% pullback. We may be able to sort of just push up and sideways until then. So many conflicting signals at the moment, though. Even like now, it could just be a consolidation sideways rather than going to pull back in the next week or two. Quick look at Litecoin. Not really going on a run. Have a look at Soldo based on the ETF traded well, but Sol hasn't really followed through. Good bounce off the point of control there though. Sol really needs to break above 159. Let's say 160. If we break above 160, then 187 is the target. But yeah, that's not a bad confirmation of the point of control level. P. Yeah. Good keep going. Pipe's looking pretty strong still. I was going to buy it down here too. H bar. So two that I'm considering here: H bar and Ondo. There's Ondo. Ondo's being used by a few of the bigger guys to build RWA systems on, real world asset systems. These may sort of hold this level, at least for the time being. What was the other one? I don't know. Sui AI. Sui. Interesting. Meta's talking about getting back into crypto, stablecoin payments, and all that sort of stuff. So we may get a little run based off that news. Did come out of Meta. Trump, Melania. Not really going to say anything about them. Look at Bytes. Not a bad level for Bytes there. If we get continuation on everything else. IMX just announced staking rewards the other day, I think. Not a bad little double bottom here. If we go on a run towards the end of the year, I do actually expect a few of these to perform. This could start to get the FOMO in and the narrative, so it's a hard sell though, because most people are just buying Bitcoin. Big guys are all in on Bitcoin, and that's pretty much. So some of these are proper businesses, but not generating enough cash to be valued at billions of dollars yet. Doge going. Pretty good base here if we do go on a bit of a run. If not, rejection off sort of the 50 EMAs and stuff as we're coming down would look pretty nasty. You'd be expecting Doge to come back into 10 cents. Shit, mooting went nuts. Wow, didn't see that happening. Looks like it's going to close above its 200 EMA too on the daily. Jesus, that's nuts. All right, a lot of the shit coins are still just shit coins, but some are showing a little bit of structure at sort of key levels of where they've pulled back to. Definitely not showing signs of a major bull run on on alts though. So anyway, just a quick one on this. So yeah, we're starting to get a bit overextended here. Closure back within the 25 1 standard deviation Bollinger, which is in blue here. That's probably going to lead to more pullback. We are overextended on the cyclic RSI on both, although on the 1 hour cyclic RSI, we have actually broken out above the top band. It might just be a little breakout, but realistically, until I see a closure below that, sorry, that's actually the 4 hour cyclic RSI. I didn't realize it was on the 1 hour chart. Yeah, so the 1 hour is overextended. 4 hours getting there, but the 4 hour has a little breakout. Once you break above that top band, if you don't get sort of instantaneous pullback, you can go for another couple of periods of upside. Haven't quite hit like the 70 read either, which is typically an even better pullback area. But may get a little bounce around 108, 500-ish. A bit of continuation if that happens. At least 110. It all depends on whether this next leg up gives us sort of that all-time high, or whether we just keep pulling back on this marker. Now, 4 hour momentum is generally still down at the moment. Even with this pull up, I've still got overall momentum to the downside. Could break that anytime, but yeah, at this stage, the 1 hour momentum's up, but 4 hour is not. We are pretty high on the 1 hour as well, so maybe a bit of consolidation sideways, potentially up into that 110 as well, just to sweep some more of that liquidity, and then I'd be looking for pullbacks. All right, that'll do for today. I'll